you've ever asked yourself, how can I get the swing and the golf game that I've always imagined without trying every tip, every training aid, watching every video after video on social media, then this podcast is for you. Welcome. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome to the Imagen Golf Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Imagen Golf and PXG. Good afternoon, Imagination. Welcome back. It is FORE Friday. 4 left. I am and still pulling the ball to the left. It's driving me a little crazy, but it's better than the right. So, but I'm still bombing the drive, man. I actually hit a 300-plus yard drive, and I have witnesses to prove it. I don't hit too many of those, only to mess up the chip, the pitch, I should say, to the green, and parring a hole that I should have easily, birdied. But look. This is where we give you a tip, a tool, a strategy, something that you can take to the course with you right away without changing your swing. And we do that in 4 minutes or less starting now, right? Look, this is probably the most actionable, no-nonsense tip, right, that I can give you that you could take straight to the tee right this weekend. And we're talking about something that probably separates definitely separates better golfers from that weekend warrior golfer. And it's certainly not ball speed, or it's not the latest, greatest, 600-yard driver or anything like that. It's a piece of course management, right? And we're not going to talk about the course management in general today, but specifically why you have to consider all the variables before you even think about pulling out a club right out of that bag. Listen, we've all been there, right? We hit that 300-yard drive. We hit any great shot, right? You walk up to your ball, you shoot the pin with your laser. I use a watch. I look at my GPS watch, and let's say it says, 150 yards to the pin, right? Instantly, your brain and mine would go, okay, that's my 8-iron. That's my 9-iron, right? That's your pitching wedge if you're young, right? So certainly you grab that club, you take a couple of practice swings, and you take your shot. And then, we all know what happens. It comes up 5, 10, 15 yards short. It may even be in a bunker or a hazard or whatever, right? But you look at your club, you look at your partners, right? You look at yourself, right? And you're like, you can't believe it. You're like, man, I flushed that, right? How did that come up short? And I'll tell you how. And by the way, I see it all the time. 80% of all amateur golfers, and especially the ones that we do playing lessons with, come up short. And here's why, right? Because you played golf, right? Let's call it and I'm doing air quotes here, in a vacuum, right? The title of this lesson, right? Or excuse me, of this episode is, driving range golf. You played driving range golf on a real golf course, right? When you're out on a golf course, a 150-yard shot is rarely just 150. If you want to lower your scores and stop making those maddening double bogeys, right, from the middle of the fairway after you bomb the drive, as an example, you need to run the math, for lack of a better, on those variables. First of all, you need to know what the variables are, right? Some of you don't even know what the variables are out there, but you need to know what the variables are. So I'm going to give you a quick checklist to run through in your head on every single shot, especially approach shots, right? But every single shot for that matter, right? Number one, right? We did a whole video on this that got 10 million views, is the lie. You have to pay attention to the lie. I mean, this dictates everything. If the ball is sitting up perfectly in the fairway, right? That's going to be one number. If it's nestled down in the rough, that's another number. If it's a fly or lie by sitting up, right? That's another number, right? You're probably going to get, right, 3 different lies or 4 different lies from any one shot, or could, I should say, get 3 or 4 different lies, right? So if you don't take that into consideration, I should say, then you're going to have a problem, right? When you're in deep rough, as an example, the club face is going to grab it. It might shut, as an example. If it's a fly or lie, it's like hitting on a tee, dude. It's going to go farther, right? Is the ball above your feet, below your feet, uphill, downhill, right? All these things are going to have a massive effect on distance. So if you don't adjust your lie, you are always going to lose the battle and come up short. All right. Number two is elevation. Are you hitting up to an elevated green or down into a valley? All right. A good rule of thumb that we use all the time is that you subtract, right, one club for every 10 yards of elevation. Right. That means simply that 150-yard shot is playing, okay, 160 if it's 30 feet uphill. And that happens all the time. There are plenty of greens at your local community that are 30 feet uphill, right? So you got to know the elevation. Number three, the elements. Wind, temperature. Is the wind in your face? Is it a crosswind, right? Don't just feel it right where you're at ground level. Look at the treetops, right? Also remember, right, the ball doesn't travel as far in a cold morning, right, or cold air, right, as it does on a 90-degree sunny day afternoon. So take that into consideration, right? Look where the pin is. What's the flag doing? Right? I can tell you thousands and thousands of golf shots I've taken where I feel almost no wind where I'm at, and I look at the flag and it's moving, uh, crazy, right? I couldn't think of a word there, right? But so consider those elements, right? Those elements can add a club or two. I remember hitting a par three one time, probably about 160-yard par three in Hawaii. And the caddy says to me, "How far do you hit your three wood?" I'm like, "I don't know, like 220, 210. All right. He goes, "Well, get that out." I go, "What?" He goes, "Get that out." So you know where that story's going, right? The wind was right in our face. It was swirling at the pin. And sure enough, the ball bounced within a foot and a half of the pin, right? So he got a nice little tip at the end there. So pay attention to those elements. Number four is something that people rarely look at, is the danger zones. What I want you to think about, and I'm doing air quotes here, is where can I absolutely not miss this shot, unquote. If the pin is tucked to the right side next to the water hazard, right, why are you aiming at the pin, right? Aim at the center of the green. Play the percentages. If the pin is in the back, why are you shooting to the middle, right? Make sure your miss leaves you, right, with an easy chip or pitch for that matter, right? Not a penalty stroke, right? So look at those danger zones. I'm not a big fan of hitting to a danger zone and like drawing it back, but if you can do that, do that. But just you got to be aware, all right, of where the danger zones. 80% of all danger zones are on the side in front of greens, and 80% of all greens are sloped back to front. So take that to note, right? And then number five is you. Be honest. Have an honest conversation with yourself. Like, dude, how am I playing today? Not yesterday, not my best, not when I, beat my buddy, last week. What did I, and especially if you're playing the same course, right? All right, I normally hit 7-iron from here. Well, dude, if you're not playing well, then take a 6-iron, take a hybrid. But don't try to play, right, what you normally play, again, with air quotes, right? What are you doing in the moment? And then make your decisions on that. And I would throw in there, make empirical decisions more so than emotional decisions. That's the you part, right? I know you think you hit your 7-iron 150, but you're 80% of the time you're short. So guess what? You don't hit your 7-iron 150, right? I know you want to hit it to the center of the flag, which you're always short, or center of the green. So you shoot the flag, but you're always short 80% of the time. So here's an idea. Shoot to the back, right? Now, all of a sudden, if you hit to the back, there's no trouble back there. No problem, right? Attaboy. And if you're normally short, like 80% of the time, you're right in the middle of the fairway. That's the you variable, right? So when you consider the game, all right, is a game, golf game, anybody's golf game is a game of probabilities, right, or numbers or statistics, right? And what we said earlier in the session here, or in the episode, problem solving, right? When you step up to your ball, I want you to be that kind of CSI/detective person, right? Before you even grab your club. Because here's if you do that, when you pull out that club, I guarantee you'll be way more committed mentally. Even if it's just subconsciously, you'll be more committed to that shot instead of, hoping you hit your 7-iron, that 150 that you do on the simulator, perfect lie, perfect environment, perfect you, right? Distance is only one piece of the puzzle. Once you factor in those other four, right? And when you start thinking this way, you take a lot of pressure off of your swing. You don't have to hit a perfect shot to get a great result, not just a good result, a good result. You just have to make that smart decision up front and execute on that confident, committed swing. So decide on the shot, right? Commit to it 100%, right? And let it rip. All right. That's all I have today. Thanks for everything you do for Imagen Golf. Thanks for listening. Hit the follow button, and I'll see you on the links. All right, then. That's today's podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the follow button wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check out our site, imagengolf.com. Check out our YouTube page at Imagen Golf, and we're on all the social media platforms. I'm the same at Imagen Golf. And here's to getting you the swing and the game that you've always imagined. You've heard all the golf tips. You've watched a million golf videos on keep your head down, turn your hips, check your grip pressure, you're swinging too fast, and frankly, it's overwhelming and just flat out noisy. So stop listening to the noise. Traditional golf instruction is way too complicated, and honestly, it isn't based on any facts, and it just doesn't work. At Imagen Golf, we clear the clutter. We focus on the simple, evidence-based athletic moves that actually work and stick. Experience the Imagen promise. If you don't get better in just one lesson, your lessons are free. So stop practicing your mistakes and start playing better golf today. Book your lessons at imagengolf.com, and golf better guaranteed.